Hello, Scott here. Say, just a follow up to what it was like when I got home from the Philippines. Um, I got home very early Sunday morning. When I say home, I mean all the way home. I had a flight from LA to Chicago and then about a 5 hour drive from there, from Chicago to home. But nonetheless, I made it home about 3 in the morning on Saturday morning. I left 1 a.m. on, I guess what would be Friday morning over there. Uh, there's about a 15-hour time change that's got to be added in on the travel. So, altogether it was pretty near 2 days, or 2 days, I guess, yeah. What to expect when you get home. Uh, Quite honestly, it wasn't any different than coming home any other time I've been on international travel. The only difference is the airports are virtually empty. When I got into LA, which is where I had to clear customs, you walked right through because there was very little traffic coming through. Went through customs just like you did before and went out in the airport and just went and got a connecting flight for me back to Chicago, just like any other time I've traveled internationally. No health screening, no temperature taking, no mandatory quarantine, no nothing. Now, when I got home, there's different recommendations, obviously, for a 14-day home quarantine. For me, it was just imposed by the place I work, which I work for a county government. So they are requiring me to work from home for 14 days prior to being able to return to work. And that I'm guessing is at the recommendation at most likely the state. But I would think that if you worked for a private company or a company that didn't impose that restriction on you, you're free to do what you want. There's nothing preventing me from going shopping or going to Walmart, getting gas, whatever. I haven't left home since I've been here, but there's nothing preventing me from doing that. And I don't know if that's going to change here in the near future or not. But going back to getting out of Cebu or getting out of the Philippines and getting home, how to go about doing that. For me, I was able to get on a flight. It was Korean Air Flight 632 that left Cebu City and got to Seoul, Korea. Now, I did a quick search on that flight, and it flew Thursday night that I left. It flew on Sunday night, and again, it's flying here, shortly on, I guess what would be Wednesday night, So, but after that, it looks like that flight isn't traveling anymore. That I didn't see any more flights going after the one that leaves here just in a few hours. And I guess that's maybe important because that was a way to get out of the Philippines without any local travel, on any local airlines, which it's important to get to a major hub as quick as possible. I also did go out, I used Kayak to do my airline booking and travel, at least for the search initially. A lot of times I'll use Cheapo Air on some of the bookings. Either one worked fairly well, at least for me anyway. But I did go out and I did some searching to see, okay, if you're in Cebu or Cebu City and wanted to get in that airport, when and how would you get out of there? It appears that tentatively they have domestic flights scheduled to start flying on the 15th of April. Now, I said tentatively because that could easily change with little or no notice. They may just say, hey, we're not going to allow them. And the majority, if not almost all of the flights that are leaving from Cebu City now, when you search Kayak, are going from Cebu City to Manila and then Manila will get on a major carrier to get you to Seoul or some other destination, and ultimately, back to the States or potentially somewhere else if you're headed, somewhere other than the United States. What the question I would have with that is, are those local flights truly going to start flying on the 15th, or is that just speculation, so they're starting to sell tickets? If you just try to get a ticket from, let's say, an outlying island to Cebu City or somewhere else, they are for sale starting on the 15th. Now, are they going to honor that? I don't know. Would be the scary part, because if you start booking a ticket, and you're going to depend on one of those tickets to get you to either Cebu or Manila to get on, the flight as an international flight, that might be, a little bit difficult. But, I do think they recognize that there is a lot of stranded people in the Philippines, and that's not just tourists that are trying to get home. It's also locals that are trying to get home. They're on vacation in various places by themselves or with foreigners or whatever, and they're stranded away from home, just like a lot of foreign tourists are stranded away from home. So it's possible that they're going to, open up the airport and allow, people to travel to get home or to get to the international airports so they can get on international flights and get home. If you're interested in doing that, my suggestion would be to book a ticket, from wherever you are to your destination. Now, when I say your destination, say you want to get to Chicago, like I did, start your search with Chicago, and then look at one of the itineraries and see where you land in the States first. And if you happen to be going to somewhere else and not directly to Chicago, I probably would, end my flight at that first airport that lands you in the States, because you'll be able to get a connecting flight from there to the major airports. And if you put that in your original itinerary, this is what happened to me, is about 2 days before I was ready to fly, I got this notice that basically said my flight was canceled. And I started to panic, and I, between me and my sister, were looking at, the sites and the flights and trying to figure out what was really canceled. And the flight that had canceled was the flight from LA to Chicago, and ultimately that wasn't a big deal to me, because if I can get to the States, I can get home. When I got to the airport, they had asked me about, did you get your notification of your flight? And I said, well, I got some kind of a notification, but it didn't tell me anything. I did some research, and it looked like, the flight from LA to Chicago was canceled, and what they inherently did, for whatever reason, is they made my final destination Denver, Colorado. Now, whether I'm in LA or I'm in Denver, I'm still a solid airplane ride away from getting to where my car was parked in Chicago. So I said, that's fine, just get me to LA. I've already booked another ticket, figuring that one had been canceled when I had done my research. And I ended up then flying American Airlines to get to Chicago. So the moral of the story, right now, if you're on the island of Cebu, I think you can get home. How to get to the airport, depending on where you are. If you're in the city, Cebu City, just talk to whomever, local or where you're staying, is to help find somebody that can secure you a ride. It could be a local with a car. You'll see a lot of those white vans running around that transport people from the major hotels. If you talk to them, they most likely could get you a ride. I had talked to one guy who had a police officer bring him to the airport. Now, the police officer charged him, interesting enough, but they did bring him to the airport. So they will allow you to get to the airport, no matter what they say regarding checkpoints. they're going to let you get to the airport. If you're on other parts of the island, several hours away from Cebu City, it might be more difficult. But if you can find somebody locally with a transport that's willing to give you a ride up to the airport, you should be able to make it through all the checkpoints. I say should, but if you can document that you've got a flight and you're trying to get up there for that, I believe they will let you through. They let me through with little or no questioning. It was just a peek in the car, and yeah, it looks like a stranded tourist that's going to the airport. So that's it. That's how I got home. Right now I'm at home under quarantine, glad to be here. I could honestly say that under most circumstances I wouldn't be glad to be told I have to stay home for 14 days. But under this circumstance, I guess I am. So maybe I was one of the fortunate ones to get out maybe just in time from Cebu City before the Korean Air Flight 632 got suspended, because that kind of looks like what happened. And that flight was fairly full. When it wasn't completely full on the 3rd when I took it, but it was predominantly full. Now, flights after that were mostly empty. So, the issue is these flights are so empty, international and domestic, that I suspect a lot of the airlines are canceling them just because there isn't enough people riding it to justify flying it. I'm guessing they're not even, in most cases, paying for the fuel. So, that is going to be a problem, in the future, at least the immediate future of getting home, is they're going to start condensing these flights to try to at least get the head count up enough to justify flying it. But yeah, who knows? It's really anybody's guess. There was also a notification, I think, out that Luzon, the northern part of the Philippines, was going to extend their quarantine till the end of April. Does that mean they aren't going to allow flights through Manila? I don't know. It looks to me like there still are flights running through Manila, but they do have that area locked down pretty tight, just like they have Cebu City. When I last few days I was there, that was locked down pretty tight, just like most areas of the Philippines. But if you can secure international travel, you got to work a little bit to get a ride to the airport, depending on where you are. But once you get to the airport, if you confirm your flight and make sure you do that it's flying, you can usually do that through any of those booking agencies. Check on flight status. I think every airline has got their own. If, say, for Korean Air, you just go to Korean Air's website. They've got a button that says flight status. You key in the flight number if you have it, which would be on your itinerary, and you just key it in there, the date, and hit the status, and it'll show you what's anticipated with that particular flight. So that's my suggestion. That's how I got home. It was getting to be a scary proposition being over there, not really knowing what's happening. It won't deter me from going back, certainly, but this worldwide pandemic has caused some issues, and we got some recovery to do, certainly, before we're going to want to take off and travel globally anymore. But anyway, hopefully somebody found this helpful. If it helps one person, I guess it's worthwhile. Take care.